we are going to take a deep dive into an article about threat hunting in the Windows Registry. Let's get started.
Threat hunting for Windows Registry. The registry is a file system by Microsoft Windows operating systems that stores application settings, low-level system settings, and user preferences.
Yeah, basically the way I was told to understand the registry, it's just like a Linux file system. Like in Linux, everything is a file, but with the Windows registry, it doesn't look like that, but that's what it is. So if you everything in the registry is a flat file.
User preferences. Registry structure, hives, contain keys, directories, and values. Keys might contain subkeys and or values. Subkeys. No difference between key and subkey structure. Values store data. Registry.
Yeah, so just like with the flat values and everything, Alican puts a nice little picture here. Hives, keys, subkeys, value names, data types, values, those are all just basically flat data structures. But when a person thinks of Windows, or when I first started out thinking of Windows, I never really thought of it like that. I always thought Windows is much different than Linux. On Linux, everything is the file. Then the more I learned, I realized it was the same thing, just presented with a GUI. Yep, those are all the main root structures. You'll typically see either as a red teamer or blue teamer, they will be listed as the HKCR, HKCU, HKLM. You may hear people talk about it in those ways instead of just spelling out the entire root key. So if you look at this first hive here, the HK system 32 config security, you have software, system, SAM, default. A lot of very specific things live in those hives. And as a threat hunter, typically you're going to want to know all of those and what kinds of things are in there. Like with the SAM hive, you're going to find credentials, and that's the avenue an attacker would take to go find credentials if they're stored improperly on the host, or to dump the SAM hive and crack it offline. But yeah, all the subkeys here in the hives. So you got BCD, boot configuration, hardware, descriptions of all the system's hardware, device to driver mappings. If you're hunting on somebody that's doing driver persistence or something, you may want to check out that. You may want to hone in on that subkey. The SAM I talked about, this I believe it's Systems Accounts Manager. It's where all the credentials are. Security, source system-wide security policies. If I'm doing a survey once I get on a host, I may want to check out the security subkey. Software, may be looking for potential privilege escalation paths by looking into that subkey. System, just general system information. It's probably will be captured by a survey. Now, as understanding the registry and what an attacker may go after will help you exploit the mistakes of an attacker.
Fault security identifiers or SIDs.
Yeah. So with these SIDs, you don't really have to memorize these. If you're a threat hunter, you're going to be looking through logs or dumping account names or something. As an adversary, you're going to be looking for you may be enumerating accounts, and this is where the SIDs will come into play. Especially this SID, this 500 account, this sysadmin, and 544. Those are good to just have cognizance of, but from a red team hacker and a blue team hacker, aka threat hunter, just to kind of have those in the back of your minds. If as the red team hacker, you have to dork with something in the registry, like to turn it on, to turn it off, to see if it's on. There are some registry keys, like Windows will do things if you can make a registry key and turn it off. So knowing what those values are, even on the subkeys, will really help expedite some of the ground truth on either if you're looking for an adversary or you're trying to hide from a blue team adversary.
/run once.
Yeah. So it's good to know where the Autoruns are. A lot of the antiviruses, personal security products, they will already check the Autoruns, but it's always good to know how to do stuff manually in case, like if I'm a red team hacker, the adversary, I may not have a survey script written to go check Autoruns. Conversely, if I'm a threat hunter and I am deployed to this box and there's no EDR or PSP on it, I may have to know how to go do this stuff manually. Maybe the attacker got rid of the EDR, turned it off. I still have to know if there's persistence on here. It's typically Autoruns is where an attacker would drop their persistence. checking the firewall be good. From both sides of the hacking spectrum, red team and blue team. So you may think that, like, there have been times I've gotten on a host and I couldn't get comms out or I couldn't get something to work, and it was the freaking Windows firewall. Like the PSP was off, just the firewall was on. And if you only have shell access, I mean, yeah, there may be some ways to check, like with NSH, but if you always want to know what in actuality is going on, knowing where to get to the registry, knowing where it is in the registry is going to be the way to go. But I can say, from a red team perspective, red team hacker perspective, anytime that I have to go into the registry, or I went into the registry, you always have to be careful. I always had to be careful, because if I mess something up in the registry, it's going to flag, it's going to break the system. As a blue team hacker, a threat hunter, I know that the better an adversary is, the more likely they are going to be to go hide somewhere in the registry. So knowing how to get in, get out, query the registry, you don't necessarily have to know all of these keys, but be very skillful in knowing how to get in, query, what to look for, and how to take that data and make it mean something. Thank you, Alican Kiraz, for writing this article. The link to this will be in the description. Some cool links in there, just a bookmark.